welcome to another episode of Laying Down the Lore 40K, a lore podcast in which we aim to separate our Drukhari from our Dark Angels, our Tyranids from our Tau, and our Craft Worlds from our Chaos Marines, and generally ask, what's up with this Warhammer 40K stuff? My name is Ben Crumbarber, and I know pretty much fuck all about 40K. With me is my co-host Christopher Cral and Allen.
Shut up, Darren.
Who knows absolutely fuck all about 40K.
Yeah.
And my dear brother Shut Up Darren. Who knows so much about 40K, it's a wonder he has time to do anything else. Over the years, this dichotomy between our levels of understanding became clear, and this series is an attempt to address that ignorance.
Morning, chaps.
Shut up, Darren. That's all you're going to get from me.
Hey, Ben, why was the intro so measured and quiet? Is it perhaps because it's 5 o'clock in the fucking morning on a Sunday?
It's because it's 5 o'clock in the fucking morning on a Sunday now.
Hi, guys. Hi.
Hi. And everyone in my household is still asleep. Well, they were until they got woke up by our intro.
Good.
But,
Love it.
Get them off the brazzers, that's what I say.
Yeah. Brazzers to you.
Can't even remember how we got on the topic of brazzers. What was it we were
Yes, you do. We saw your internet history.
I can't remember. Anyway, moving swiftly on.
Not too swiftly.
Okay, guys, let's slow down.
Let's slow down.
And I'm spent.
We're doing a soft jazz version of Laying Down the Lore today.
Yeah. Nice.
Nice.
Today on episode 30 of 40K, we're going to be playing Hide That Necron.
And we've Charles Mingus on the saxophone later.
Nice.
And we've a girl from Omaha who's hiding a banana. We'll find out where right after this. Right. Big thanks to everyone that supports the show. You guys are brilliant. If you'd like to support us, there are a number of ways you can do that. You can head over to our Patreon where you can sign up for our Discord. It's just £3 a month. And we have given you many examples of how good a deal that is. Or you can pay an extra £2 and gain access to our new bonus show, 40KO'd, in which we grill Darren about all the silly things, or possibly not so silly things that he says on this show. And we also have merchandise and links to all of our affiliates if you're into the hobby. So just hit the Quartermaster link in the description and biggity bam, support the show. How was that?
Oh, yeah.
That excellent.
Was smooth as glass, Ben.
Smooth as jazz.
Sonic
Cral.
chocolate coming out of your
Smooth
feet.
as what? Oh, jazz.
Smooth as jazz. Smooth as chocolat. I've just realised I don't have the fucking thing.
Oh, he's all over the place, listeners. He's absolutely all over the place.
Yeah, I've got Dar and I have both gone to bed with gelled hair. That's not a euphemism. Separately. I've got a kind of like sideways Tintin Jackson going on, and Dar's got a
the opposite side. They were staring at each other on the beds. They were.
Okay, moving swiftly on from this very uncomfortable mental image
intro.
Hey, fuck you, I'm a catch.
Not for me, buddy.
Who said modestly?
Cral, you know what time it is.
Citizen of the Imperium, it's time for frontal lobotomy or bottle in front of me.
Hey, wish I had a bottle in front of me.
Yawn.
I've just realised, just before we get onto the questions, I would like to just say to the individual who bought a shower curtain with our faces on it.
Oh, yeah.
You are a fucking superstar.
Someone bought a shower curtain with our faces on it?
Yeah.
I can't remember the gentleman or gentleman's name, but I think he was a gentleman. Well, he is a gentleman now.
He sent me an image of it. He's wrapped himself in it like Buffalo Bill in Silence of the Lambs. And he's just kind of parading around his flat with his junk tucked between his legs. It's surprisingly erotic.
Amazing. Wow. We salute you, sir.
Mate, kudos to that man.
Unless he's a serial killer and is wrapping bodies in it, in which case, just use Cral's bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is episode... I don't have any questions. So I'm just gonna
Make some questions up. Make some questions up. Darren, quick fire questions, which give us half a chance of answering it to me and Ben. Go.
Oh God.
Oh no, hold on. I've completely misread this. I do have questions. I don't have any answers.
I'll provide the
I
answers.
say this. Randall has obviously provided these and has done a terrible job. Right, Cral. So this is episode 30. What was last episode?
29.
29. You always ask the same fucking question. Necrons, dynasties, lots of long sleeps by robots because they fancy the fantasy vampire kind of day sleeping vibes. Done. Yeah, man.
Okay, great. No points for that, unfortunately. But question 1. What was the flare virus?
The flare virus. Didn't it kind of strip you molecule layer by molecule layer?
No, that's the onion virus.
Gaussian technology.
No, that's the Gaussian. That's
Gaussian technology, mate.
Yeah. That's a different question. That's what is Gauss technology?
Okay, he gets 2 points for that one.
You get fuck it, you've won.
Because he answered it before it was asked. Yeah.
You've won Warhammer.
Yay!
You are, Cral, the Warhammer 40,000. Well done.
You're John Warhammer. Yeah.
Could you imagine if I was the Emperor?
Just could be.
Think on that for a minute.
Incognito.
I play dumb. But really, I'm fucking all the juice out of Thyketh for some reason.
So the original question, Cral, was in fact, what is the flare virus? Do you remember? You know what to flay is, right?
Yeah.
Can you remember?
I invented flaying, bro.
Okay. Well, you're the emperor, aren't you, bruv? So of course you did.
Exactly. I'm the emperor, and I'll flay who I want to. Sorry, carry on. I'm being a dick.
No? Do you remember what the flare virus was?
Do you even remember what the question is?
No, obviously I don't. Okay. I thought the Gaussian cannon is what I described, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And the flare virus is not the Gaussian cannon which I described. Ergo,
which is true.
No, I do not know.
Okay.
It is everything except Gaussian technology.
All
I can say what it is
together in one. So the flare virus, I'm going to start explaining this, Cral, and we're going to unlock that bit of information in your head, and you'll remember all that. Okay?
Here it comes.
So remember that the Necrons rebelled against the Catan.
Yes.
And one of the Catan that they killed was basically, he was like a sadistic son of a bitch, and he was
Welsh.
He was Welsh, and he
Do you remember he had the Welsh name?
Tom Evans. Yep.
Catan called Tom Evans
from Glamorgan.
But he was obsessed with like drinking blood and like wearing the skins of his enemies and stuff like that. Yeah. And so when they killed him, he cursed that. I think just a group of Necrons. Yeah, some of them.
A dynasty.
And so they all had. Is this any of this coming back to you, Cral?
Sure.
No, okay. He's shaking his head.
They're the Necrons with long knives for fingers who would peel the skin off people and wear it as they shove chunks of flesh through them. Oh, yeah, he says.
Yes. Oh, the flare virus.
And you kept saying, like, but why would they do that? But why would they do that? I was like, because they've been cursed, Cral. Yeah, but why would they do that?
What's the benefit of doing that? Yeah.
They want to up their protein.
The flare virus is what? The curse that they had? Is that what the virus is?
Yeah.
Yes. I do remember those things, but one minute you're calling it a curse, one minute you're calling it a virus. I mean, like, Jesus.
I know. Really, I'm to blame.
You're flip-flopping.
Right.
I've had a few viruses, and I tell you, they are curses.
Necrons don't use the warp. How do they travel through space?
Do they use their alternate dimension technology? Their pocket dimension technology?
No.
Is that right, there?
No.
Okay.
Then they just hitch on the backs of the elves, like little
huge cosmic turtles that swim through space.
That's it, exactly. Yeah.
So what is it, Dar? Is it the web? I can't even remember myself. Is it web?
They have dolmen gates, which allows them to travel through the webway, and they have a technology whose name eludes me. which allows them just to kind of teleport. Their ship kind of folds space and just instantly appears somewhere else.
Oh, yeah, kind of...
like the Highliners in Dune.
Yeah.
Would that not be preferable? It seems like a very risk-free way rather than using the web way that way. Would the Imperium not love that technology?
I don't know. No, I suspect, because the Necrons are filthy Xenos, and the Emperor, the Imperium is a thing that's kind of trapped in amber.
Yes.
The mineral, not the woman.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, all right. So, so no points for that, Cral, I'm afraid.
Okay.
It's too early for me to be as generous as I normally am with this point system.
Yeah.
So question 3, what do the Blackstone fortresses do?
What don't they do, Benny? I mean, these fucking...
I tell you what they don't do. They don't have the flare virus. Or what did Darren call them? Domino gates? Something.
Yeah, exactly. Domino's pizzas.
Delicious.
The black fortresses. Well, one, they're not actually black, Ben, nor are they fortresses. They're actually coral-coloured puppy stores.
What do pariahs do, Cral?
Pariahs all over the place, man. Like,
not
they.
not.
I tell you what, they don't do.
You or the pariahs?
Yeah, pariahs.
Yeah.
Either way, I feel my connection to my soul is being blocked.
Yeah. Aren't they some sort of like anti?
Yes.
Like pariah.
Yes.
Like they don't have souls. They're like soulless motherfuckers. Like like almost like undead. Kind of vampiric type of like, and the pariahs will stop, nullify psychic powers and whatnot.
Excellent. So what does a Blackstone fortress do?
Fuck those. How was even that connection?
By listening last week, I guess.
Okay. That's like, Ben, describe a lemon. Right.
Yeah,
now, how does the combustion engine in a car work?
Yeah. So the Blackstone fortress, Chris, is basically a fortress pariah.
A big pariah. Yeah,
that was the link. Yeah. Okay, Cral. So I mean,
should call it the Black Pariah Fortress. That would be much more self-explanatory.
These sections are now just turning into book reports by a kid that's not read the book.
Yeah, man.
So, Chris, you were on 100% at the end of episode 28.
Now I'm on 50%?
You're now on 50%. Yeah, well calculated. Lads. Right.
What's my threshold? For that?
90.
90%. 90. Okay, cool.
What's your threshold? Right fucking here, mate. I'm right here.
Right, okay. Well, I think
I got this.
I think that was a solid team effort, that one, guys. I feel like I can actually feel myself not being able to speak.
We slumbered our way through that one. That was great.
Exactly. Yeah.
Darren, can you present this next episode in a nice, soothing, sing-song kind of tone and cadence, and just lull us into an... Okay, everybody, wake up!
Let's do this.
Welcome to the penultimate faction of the Warhammer 40,000 introduction series.
Wow.
Today we will be discussing the Tau, who are the kind of up-and-coming hopeful faction within
vaguely
the game.
Chinese faction?
They are,
vaguely Asian, you said? Yeah.
Asian. Yes, they are Asian.
Yep.
Okay.
Vaguely Asian.
I love that term.
They could be, though. Aren't the Tau quite inclusive? From what little I know of them, like, so if they did come across, they come across the Chinese, they'd be entered into the Guinness Book of Records.
Please don't use the word entered. But
yeah, if they did kind of meet them, they'd be like, "Come and join us, man." And aren't they quite like that?
Yeah,
I mean, aren't they quite like that?
They're a bit like that. They're a bit like that. And that.
Okay, wow.
The Tau Empire, or the faction itself, I should start with, was introduced into the game in the 3rd edition. It was one of the new factions brought into the game. In the 3rd edition, had its own codex, complete range miniatures. And I can still remember when they were teasing it, because what they did was they created an alphabet in the Tau language, or Tau characters, and they just started putting that on their website. Every now and then there'd be this little snippet of just, it was just replacing letters, really. So, it was in English. Other languages are available. And
English.
It was
Yeah.
English. Don't. I'm going to be walking a fucking minefield in these 2 episodes to get through this.
Okay.
It's fine. Chris is Chinese.
Vasion. Chris is
Strike
Vasion.
2.
So when they did, is that thing where, like, if you take, I've seen it before where they'll have like a paragraph, and what they do is they keep the first and last letter of every word the same, but they mix up all the letters in the middle, but you can still read it. Do you know what I mean? Like, you can still... Yeah. Is that what they did? They replaced...
No, it was the thing I actually said what they did, which was take an English paragraph and just change the characters into the space characters. So they changed font,
so
basically.
You could... But you couldn't read it. It wasn't.
No,
legible.
People sat down, and when I say people, I include myself. Sat down and worked out what the most common character was, and that was probably E. Up. And then you look for 3-letter words that end in E, and that's probably the. And so you're able to.
It's like the most basic version of code breaking ever. I think Ben's overthinking it.
When this paragraph was decoded or deciphered, were you able, did it actually say and we've got a new faction coming out called Tau, or was it just gibberish?
It was done in the style of an initial broadcast from the Tau to a planet they were thinking of pulling into their empire, and it was we are the Tau, we come in peace, spreading the greater good, and it was we
come in peace. We are the world.
Oh, he's going to be rough. We have to stop doing such early records because he's off his tits already.
It's off the deep end. Right. Okay. So
cool. What characterizes the Tau? Characterizes was the word I forgot.
They have no noses.
They have no noses. Chris, have you been reading up on this before we do records?
I am Tau.
Nanu, Chris.
How now, brown Tau? They're not brown, they're kind of purple, aren't they? They're like bruised. They're a bruised kind of complexion with no noses.
What characterizes the Tau is their advanced technology plus a fairly rigid caste system plus, as Ben ruined earlier, an expansionist kind of friendly attitude to other races, initially at least. They are, as I mentioned, something that is a hopeful faction. They are constantly evolving their technology. They have because of their caste system, they have a very strong kind of social aspect to the culture, and thus want to share that strength with other races and draw in the strength and variety of other races to be able to constantly expand the Tau Empire. The Tau Empire is Mr. Chris. The Tau Empire is Mr. Chris.
Oh, wow. He's the Emperor and the Tau. Fucking hell.
Ni hao. Ni hao from the Tau.
We are on the nose if they had noses.
Nice.
So is the Tau approach is like, compared to every other race, which is like just fucking dominate, conquer,
kill.
The Tau are kind of like, come on, we do want to dominate your world and society, but we want to do it with you, kind of thing.
Yes, basically, it's it's gun barrel diplomacy. So it's we can absolutely destroy your entire planet from orbit.
We're not going to, because we're nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, just forget I said that, and just, don't look at all the enormous starships around your planet. Would you like some grain? And so they start trading and, draw people into their culture.
Behold, iPhones and stuff.
I imagine you'll probably cover this later, but do they then expect, what is there an expectation once they're in, a planet comes into the
you
fold?
fully join their culture. It's
okay.
There's a lot of freedom.
You're going to have to lose your noses.
But yeah, I live on a waste world, so please take my nose. You become a member of the Tau culture. There is a kind of glass ceiling where all the leaders and all the power reside with members of the Tau race. But they have, 24, maybe 30-ish other races within the Tau Empire who are viewed as members of the Tau Empire, legally, as it were. Socially,
Right.
there's still a bit of distance there. And the Tau, because they believe so much in the greater good, if they figure that one of their auxiliary races, or their member races, would become a detriment to the whole culture, they'll absolutely annihilate that race completely. So it's, Mr. Chris.
Yeah, so a non-ethnic Tau person will be, if they've accepted to be part of this Tau expansion, they will be accepted as a Tau. You're as much of a Tau as I am, that kind of thing. Is it
legally
kind of similar
yes.
to? I guess not. I was thinking like Vlad von Carstein is an elected count, even though he fucking wants to kill all the old world in fantasy. It's a bit different, isn't it?
It would be like emigrating to, like, a lot of the Tau kind of subtext is Japanese. So think about Japan expanding, not historically, we don't want to go down that road. But sure. if you think of, a Westerner coming to Japan and getting a Japanese passport, you're Japanese.
Yeah.
Legally, socially, are you Japanese?
Sure.
Would certain doors be closed to you because you're not ethnically Japanese? It's that kind of idea.
Would the other? I mean, is the hierarchy quite? Is it respectful of the other races? Like, or is it socially
bigotry, isn't there?
Oh, it is, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, because of the way they make war, they have no truck really with kind of close combat, and so they use the Kroot, who are one of their kind of auxiliary races, to do all the kind of hand-to-hand fighting. And so thus, you could take a view that they're using other races as cannon fodder, but the other races, the benefits they get are staggering. And we can talk about that in a little while, certainly with humans who have joined the Tau Empire. It's oil and water, really, the difference between their lives under the Imperium and under the Tau Empire. Cool. Chris, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I think you kind of half answered it there. I was going to ask, okay, well, what races, non-Tau races, have joined the Tau, and what is the most far out Tau inclusionist situation? Like, do you get Orc Tau?
The jelly people of Jellyfish 9.
Who are in fact stick insects, yes.
Dark elves, for example.
No, although there is an odd connection to the Eldar, which we'll get into later on.
Okay.
Tau. What do they look like, Darren? I'm glad you asked, Darren.
What do they look like, Darren?
They are anthropomorphic camels. That's really the best way to think about them. So
sold.
They are.
I'll take two.
They are. I have researched this fully, Ben. They are slightly shorter than humans. You can take that to the bank. Okay?
Excellent. Okay.
Like camels.
Slightly short.
Like camels.
I recognize a Tau when I see one. And why do you say anthropomorphic?
That word you said.
Yeah.
Mostly because their hands and feet are actually hooves. And they do have they do have opposable thumbs on their hands, but they've only got 3 digits.
Okay, interesting that their technology is so developed with only 3 digits.
All right, racist. When they walk on their toes, but they've evolved in a radically short period of time simply to walk on their toes. Their heels never touch the ground. And so they have a very weird gait. They're a fairly short-lived species, aging about 50 years before they pass, but there have been experiments, I believe, by the Imperium with rejuvenate technology to see how long they can make a Tau live, and it caps out at about 83 years, Terran kind of standard.
Oh, sorry. Why would the Imperium do that? Why would they want to see if they could make them last?
It was
longer?
a sex thing. I wouldn't lean into it. No, the Majos biologists are. They want to find out everything about a culture, and there have been some instances of Tau, a member of the Tau, being in an Inquisitor's warband. And usually it's the water caste, and we'll discuss that shortly. In terms of their skin color, it's a kind of a blue-gray, going between very light and quite dark shades of that color. Their skin is leathery and doesn't sweat. Yeah, they don't sweat. It's leathery, and it's described as...
They need to preserve the water, apparently, don't they, Darren?
Yeah, Chris. Yeah.
Do they breathe oxygen?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, exclusively.
Cool. Yeah. Very flammable oxygen.
Very flammable oxygen, yep. And in terms of their build, this is where it really kind of divides their race. They're a caste-based culture, much like India of old, or Bharat, as we should start calling it.
Can you just explain caste for Ben?
Depending on which class of people you're born into, it dictates your entire life in terms of job expectations, skill sets, advancement opportunities.
You're very, very pigeonholed. Got it.
Yes, exactly right. But this really is a sort of genetic pigeonholing, if one could imagine. That would be a very exciting movie to watch.
It's kind of like the Skaven, isn't it? Because they had very specific roles available to them depending on the color of their fur.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So it's very bigoted view, I have to say, of the Skaven, who are usually so inclusive. So they have 5 castes, meaning 5 distinct subcultures within the Tau culture. And these are Earth, Air, Fire, and Water. That's the name of the caste. And everything changed when the Fire Nation attacked. That's a line from...
Nice. Nice. Cral's looking blank there.
I was a couple of seconds behind because you said the elements like Earth, Air, Fire, and Water. I was like, Earth, Wind, and Fire. There's a disco joke in there somewhere.
Yeah,
and I was really racking my brains, but then the train had left the station by then. So yeah, carry on.
And so, in broad strokes, Air Caste Tau are pilots and messengers and anything to do with moving in the air or indeed in space. The Air Caste, in terms of their build, are very thin and long. And historically, before the kind of great advances in technology they achieved, they had long membranous kind of folds from their arms down their sides to their feet and could glide between the mountaintops, which was their home. Again, still very kind of blue-grey, but very long, like you've kind of stretched a regular Tau.
Okay.
The Earth Caste are builders, engineers, and constructionists. Any kind of advanced technology comes out of the Earth Caste, or a sizable portion of it comes out of the Earth Caste. And they are stockier and slightly more muscular than a standard Tau.
Chonky,
yeah. They're the dwarves of the Tau Empire in terms of attitudes and build, but slightly taller than dwarves. The water castes really are kind of the standard, in quotes, Tau that are encountered by other races, because these are the diplomats, the negotiators. They're also deal in commerce and trade. And they stand slightly smaller than a human, or thinner slightly than a human, and again blue-grey skin and their responsibility is largely commercial and diplomatic within the Tau Empire.
Right.
The fire caste then are the warriors, and these are what you could refer to as the standard Tau, because these are the ones that have miniatures and appear in a lot of the artwork. So they are the strongest, they're the physically strongest, and just look like kind of buff water caste style Tau, almost always armored in their day-to-day dealings because they have martial traditions and everything is related to combat within the fire caste. That is not to say that they don't have technicians, that they don't have their own capacity for diplomacy or negotiation, or indeed for pilots. But it's usually battle suits and ground vehicles, which are almost exclusive.
Glocks down people's throats going, you don't have to join us. You don't have to, but it's in your interest.
But we're kind of great.
Cock. To join us. Click, click.
Do the water, I'm going to get this wrong now, do the earth and water castes have any sort of military presence?
They do in part of the wider Tau Empire and the Tau Army. So the Tau Space Navy, the SNAVY, is exclusively managed by air caste. The water caste, they don't really have a militaristic presence because that's their culture evolved through negotiation, through trying to get the Tau to understand that each caste had its own unique strengths and weaknesses and they could offset each other.
Right.
And then the other guys just shot them in the head and go,
yeah,
really
you're right.
Yeah. Sure, we can talk about it. Or kablamo.
The sword beats the pen, bitch.
Cool story, bro. Bang. Yeah. For about 5,000 or 6,000 years before the present time in the 40K universe, the Tau largely have existed in their own little empire called the Tau Empire. And that is situated right on the edge of human space in the...
As opposed to what other space?
Your ass. The...
It's a big bit of space.
That's thrown me off completely. I was going, well, the Eldar have an empire, Chris.
You said human space. Oh yeah, okay. There are different dimensions. Yep. You're right.
But they border the kind of empire or the Imperium through Ultramar. If you recall, the 500 world empire of the Ultramarines. And the Tau have a
sorry to interrupt. Are they outside of which segmentum is Ultramar?
Tempestus.
Tempestus. So they're on the outer edge of Tempestus.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Right.
The Imperium first kind of encountered the Tau in the, I think it was the mid 35th or 36th millennium. And what the race they encountered is as described in terms of their physiology, but they were Stone Age technology levels. It was going to be tens of thousands of years before they'd even get a level of advanced culture. So, the next encounter with them, they were surprisingly advanced. And within the space of 6,000 years, we'll call it, they had gone from Stone Age levels of technology and culture
to Nespresso machines,
to technology that is objectively far more advanced than anything the Imperium has.
Wow.
They have a staggering amount of technology and advancement, and it does appear to just continuously be evolving, because at some stage they embraced AI wholeheartedly. And so they have a lot of research done on the back of kind of AI scripts and AI entities that augments their own kind of research purposes or research capacities.
Cool.
They just bossed it through the Silicon Valley .com boom kind of thing.
Oh, they would absolutely have just run up and knocked out Elon Musk and then cracked on and did other stuff.
Yeah.
So is there any reason given as to how that happened? Why
literally my pause was just about to describe how the
You were just about to take a deep breath.
Ben Kovar, we're laying down the lore. I retract my question.
The fifth caste is referred to as the ethereal caste, or the celestial caste.
Ooh.
Yeah. Yeah. And these are the warrior monks of the Tau Empire, and they are the leaders of the Tau Empire. The Ethereals call the shots and are not above rank political manipulation to get what they want in their furtherance of the greater good.
Cool.
And it was in the mid 37th millennium, so 2,000 years after the Stone Age nonsense, where the Ethereals first appeared. They are not a natural Tau evolution. They are a fiddled with Tau evolution, and we'll cover that in a second.
We'll come up with a better terminology for that later.
They are. They took their molested DNA and. So the period in which the Ethereals arrived was called the Mont Tau, or Mont Au, which is referred to as the Terror or the Death Age, where all four castes were at war with each other, as opposed to themselves. Wow. Maybe themselves, it depends how inclusive you want to be. And the city of Phaeton was under siege. So it was an earth caste city under siege by elements of fire and air. And it lasted a staggering amount of time. It's like the Trojan War kind of deal, where it was, at least an hour of total warfare.
Sounds exhausting.
And then just after the latest large surge of troops trying to get into the city, lights were seen in the sky, and onto the battlefield strode two Tau in robes. One went to the city, the other went to the plains to talk about what was happening, to have a real thing. It was like, lads, is this really what you want? No guns were used. After a night of talking with the Ethereals and all the leaders from the various sides.
Sharing doobies.
Exactly right.
Try some of this.
You don't know.
Tau high grade.
You don't know how true that is. The Ethereals got a kind of a cessation of combat, and peace suddenly and violently broke out. And over the next few months, more Ethereals started to appear on the planet at points of war or where there was any form of issue or contention where the four castes weren't working.
Really bloodshot eyes, packet of cheese puffs. You want to know why we're called the Ethereals?
Hit this shit, bro.
You'll love it. It's called existential mind death. Yeah.
Did you just say something?
Yeah, gorilla panic.
What? Why is the stuff always named really weirdly? It's like the most terrifying names.
Yeah.
They're coming. They're coming.
This is permanent.
So yes, the newcomers announced themselves to be known as the Ethereals. And that is also the first instance when the greater good was kind of proselytized by the Ethereals, where the notion of an inclusive empire that could spread and bring, social and physical peace to those around it, and also the requirement for all aspects of the Tau Empire to work together for the betterment of everyone. And as I say, truces were thrown around, and within a couple of years the entire Tau race was unified under the kind of leadership of the Ethereals. Now that's not to say they didn't listen to anyone. they're left-handed from listening to people, as we would say in Ireland. So each ethereal meets with representatives of all 4 castes and any other leadership group that they need to get all the information they require to make a decision. But once they've listened to all the advice, the actual decision comes down to them. They decide what it means, to serve in the greater good. They decide what decision to make. So it's very much their way or the highway once a decision has been announced. And there's been a couple of instances where that's not exactly worked out for everyone. Now, I said they were messed around with race. The Tau Ethereals have a special node in place of where the slit would be between their eyes, where a human nose would be. It starts in their forehead and ends where a human nose is. And interestingly, the olfactory senses of a Tau are in their mouth.
The what senses?
Their olfactory, their smelling sense is in their mouth.
So what's that? Sorry, What was the slit for?
I don't know. Aerodynamics? So that they whistle when they run? I don't know. Charge!
It's like being attacked by a bunch of wind chimes.
Now I've just got a load of a vision of going to dinner at a Tau's house, and they're all, this smells delicious.
Raw.
Raw.
Can I just ask, the whole concept of the greater good then, is that it's specifically the greater good for the Tau? It's
for the Tau Empire.
For the Tau Empire. So it's not like they're not talking about the greater good for the galaxy or something kind of more existential than that. It's specifically for them as a race.
I'm saying for the Tau Empire because it is, they're the ones espousing it, but they genuinely feel that their culture is the most enlightened and the most, arguably the most pacifist, because they use war as a last resort.
Right, okay.
So they do have a feeling that it's like a manifest destiny kind of, Americana kind of thing, where they know what's best. They're going to bring the best to everyone and kill anyone who doesn't comply.
Right, okay. But the reality is that there's truth to that. Like it's not just subjective. It's not just they feel like their way is that, like, because we've never covered any race that in 40K that does this, do we? Have we?
No. The lives of humans within the Tau Empire are objectively better than any scope of life that a human could have in the Imperium of Man.
Right, okay.
Think of it as if our Earth was conquered by a race of aliens who just installed like a governor, and you could just live your life the way you wanted, and you could practice any form of worship that you wanted, and the technology of the aliens was brought to you. They would expect a level of trade. They would expect a level of service for the empire that you're joining. There's no mandatory conscription, but if you wish to, serve in the war, you get kind of social bump ups for that.
Sounds pretty good deal.
It's a better deal than we have today.
Huh?
But, if your planet rebels, they'll nuke it from orbit just to make sure. Because they don't want any kind of gainsay. So there is a line.
You just have to make sure everybody's playing along, because you don't want to be like...
Yes.
If there was just one guy on a planet, it was just like, I don't think the Tau's for me. It's just, boom, gone.
Well, no, I think long before that, you would go to that guy's house and it would just be a pair of smouldering boots. It's just... with hilarious political assassination consequences. Ethereals, they have a black hard diamond gland in their foreheads from which they exude pheromones. And these pheromones allow them
Made
to
you
sway.
horny as fuck. You feel like mating? I want to mate right now.
Anyone else feeling frisky?
But it automatically gives them the benefit of the doubt with any race that they meet.
+1 to charisma.
Exactly right, yeah. Now,
Yeah,
I'd say that these were created because the gland in their forehead is actually from a race called the Quarrel. Quarrel? Yeah. Who are an insectoid race on the other side of the galaxy. Like almost directly opposite to the Tau Empire on the other side. And their kind of brood mothers of the Quarrel have these glands in pairs on their stalks, and that allows them to completely dominate the other Quarrel, the kind of subordinates. So what has happened, and it's kind of inferred within a book called Xenology, which is charmingly a series of alien autopsies by the Inquisition. What's being inferred is someone took Tau from one side of the galaxy.
From Tauland.
Either they took the glands from the Quarrels and kind of hammered them into the Ethereals, or they brought Ethereals to the Quarrel and hammered the glands.
Put them in a jar, shuck it up, and see what happened.
Yep. See what happened.
Wow.
And so the Ethereals were genetically modified by some race. It's heavily intimated that it's the Eldar. So thus, the Tau Empire is the creation off the back of genetically fiddling by another race with the Tau.
Wow.
And to what end? We don't know. Could it be that they needed some sort of force for good? Are we looking at an old ones style modification of an existing race to bring them up to technology, advanced social and technological levels? Mr. Ben?
The intimation that it was the Eldar, is there any reason given as to why they would want the Tau to kind of develop like that?
Not directly, but the Eldar are a dying race.
Right.
And so, the Tau are no slouches when it comes to combat. And so that would be useful, but we will leave the rest of that discussion for the Tau deep dives, because it's a really interesting aspect to their culture.
Can I propose a possible theory?
Go on.
Go.
Is it that the Eldar, maybe as a dying race, were hoping that the Tau would encompass them into it? And they would become part of the Tau?
That is what I like to call a theory. Moving on.
Spot on.
Excellent.
Yeah, the description of kind of aftermarket sticking a gland into your forehead situation for the Ethereals.
We've all been there.
Smacks of kind of, what was the man doing when he found out you could milk a cow?
Yeah.
Kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? Maybe it wasn't him. Maybe it was the Eldar, like you say.
Yeah, maybe.
Or maybe he was just curious.
In terms of the limits of ethereal power, they're the most charismatic Tau in a room, or within like 10 or 12 feet, because that's the range of this pheromonal kind of idea. I'm suggesting, I don't know what the actual range is. They do have mild abilities that may look like kind of psychic influence, but it is, behind the scenes, it is pheromonal based kind of influence. The Tau have no presence in the warp, or no capacity to access the warp. They are a non-psychic race. Psychers don't exist for them. So the Ethereals have no psychic capacity. In terms of Imperial Psychers, I don't know if they have pariahs. I don't believe they do, from my understanding of it. And they don't travel through the warp. They don't have a capacity to punch through the warp for very long journeys. They do a thing called warp skipping, where they'll just kind of dip into the warp and come out almost immediately, and that cuts tens of light years off there.
So they do access the warp.
Yes, but
like
it's
a skimming stone.
Yes, exactly right. And so their empire is not large at all. They've had 5 separate expansion kind of their 3D empire borders, and they're working on the 6th. They're in the middle of the 5th as of the kind of current edition of 40K. But it is a very small empire on the
galactic scale.
Yes, on the galactic scale.
Yeah.
When I said they don't have a presence in the warp, they still have souls and thus have a presence in the warp.
That was what I was going to ask.
Recently, that idea, that kind of internal ideology of the greater good, finally reached the cascade point. They have a goddess in the warp. There is a Tau goddess. Ooh. This is a recent around about the 3rd, 4th expansion, I think. One of their commanders encountered a warp entity who was Tau in stature and build, except they had a completely featureless face. It just looked like a thigh.
Wow. That's freaky.
It's able to speak, but there's no mouth. So you physically hear it. It doesn't.
Sounds like it's coming at your butt. I smell through my mouth and I speak through my ass. Yeah, okay.
That is no way to speak about the goddess Tau Va, okay?
Listen, I didn't make the rules. I merely mocked them. All right.
People of the galaxy, hear the call of unity. The Church of the Goddess Tau Va extends its radiant message to all who seek peace, purpose, and prosperity. Under the watchful guidance of the greater good, the Tau Empire has flourished, embracing diversity while uniting countless species under a single harmonious vision. Join us and become part of something far greater than yourself. In the embrace of Tau Va, the divine embodiment of our noble ideology, we transcend division. No more shall you languish in the chaos and despair of fractured societies. Here, every soul has a role, and every role contributes to the prosperity of all. Each of us is indispensable. Each of us is valued. The greater good offers more than just survival. It promises transcendence. Together, we can build a future where all species thrive in harmony, free from the chains of greed and self-interest. Tau Va blesses the faithful. Serve her and serve all.
So she's the embodiment of the greater good and is a hopeful deity that simply wants to exist. She's a good person, on the grayscale moral structure of 40K, she's objectively good versus all the others.
This Tau goddess, did they have a name?
Yeah, Tau Va.
Tau Va. Mrs. Tau, Ms. Tau Va.
Ms. Va, yeah.
Ms. Va lives in the warp amongst the Chaos Gods?
Yes, she has her own kind of area in the warp. She merely wants to exist. She's still very much a kind of childlike level of power within the warp because the Tau Empire is so small. But it's the hope of the greater good in the races that are members of the Tau Empire that kind of cascaded her into existence. She's literally a couple of 100 years old.
So it's hope itself, the kind of
it's the greater good and all that encompasses, including hope and tolerance and inclusion and all that.
I see, and all of that coalesced in the warp, and it made her. That's that's throwing the cat among the pigeons.
Mm-hmm.
You did well to keep that one quiet all this time.
You have no idea. The Tau
Things
race
you don't know,
themselves,
guys.
yeah. The Tau race itself is quite secular, so they haven't accepted her as a kind of wholesale. They acknowledge that she exists, but they don't worship her. If you see what I mean. The other races within the Tau Empire sort of do worship her as this being of, she represents the ideal for why they joined the Tau Empire and what the Tau Empire could be, were it galactically spanning.
So humans that have joined the Tau Empire would worship her in place of the other Chaos gods, for example. They are Tau Va is an alternative to Khorne, Nurgle, and
that would really be on a case by case basis. I mean, her you've got to think about the worship within the Tau Empire of her like Christianity during the Roman Empire.
Right.
It was somewhat persecuted. There are instances where Tau commanders have ordered temples to Tau Va to be destroyed because it's a secular empire.
Right. Okay.
But I suspect it will come to pass that it will become like the state religion. But it's really the issue that the Tau culture has with Tau Va is it sort of acts as this counterbalance to the Ethereals, and the Ethereals will not tolerate any kind of sedition or challenge because they're still very much focused on the greater good and the power and the leadership that includes.
Wow.
Very similar to the Imperium view that like outlaw religion.
Yeah.
So you can see then a kind of transference from that secular to, the kind of more Imperium model on the cards then, can you?
I think it would happen. It's already happening within the other races that are part of the Tau Empire. And so there are temples to her on the Kroot homeworld of Peck and other kind of auxiliary members. So she is worshipped. The last thing I want to say about her before we move on is that in terms of her physicality, as I say, she looks like a Tau, but sort of a mix between a Tau and a human. She has no facial features whatsoever, and she has many, many pairs of arms. So she looks a little bit like a faceless Kali, if you know that goddess or that being, I should say more correctly, from Indian culture.
That's really cool.
And each of the pairs of arms is the arms of a separate race within the Tau Empire. So she has a pair of Kroot arms. She has a very short pair of Demiurge arms, and a pair of Vespid arms, a pair of human arms, and Tau arms, and they hold alternately weapons or symbols of prosperity. So she really does encompass the entirety of the notion of the greater good and all that's used to spread it and its benefits.
Does she provide any boons? Like, does worshipping her provide benefits?
It's still
many arms.
A nose. Yeah, a nose.
Yeah, nose.
You now have a nose. Ugh.
Her holy symbol is a pair of glasses with a nose attached. That's what her. The honest answer is I don't know. She does give people beneficial visions, and can sort of be inferred as advice for immediate issues that someone chosen by her might have. But it's still very early days for her. She has manifested, but not fully, if you see what I mean. She's still a blip. She's still a drop in the ocean. But that she's managed to survive for centuries in the warp is interesting, as is the fact that the greater good is such a powerful idea within the kind of the races of 40K that it has enough power to manifest an entity to represent it.
Does she have her own pantheon?
Not at this time.
She will do. She'll get there.
She literally was mentioned in a novel a couple of years ago. In the kind of Games Workshop release schedule, it's still very, very early days. But I think we should start seeing,
the potential is huge.
It is huge. But it also speaks to the attractiveness of the greater good as a concept.
Yeah, after decades of darkness and negativity and grim darkness.
Yeah. I think one of the questions that we raised many episodes ago was like, where would you want to be in the 40K universe? Like, where's the safest place to be? Or no, hold on. No, I think maybe we asked this question in the fantasy podcast.
Yeah, fantasy one.
But because you think about it in the 40K podcast, it's almost an even more difficult question to answer until we got to the Tau. Because that sounds great.
It's the Tau Empire. I would want to live in the Tau Empire.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Me as an individual, rather than the buff middle-aged space marine that I dream about being. Chunky Dar wants to live in the Tau Empire.
That's how we picture you. No, weird. No, we don't picture you like that. I'd like to see her as a kind of more into, like, if they develop. We're saying her, or it's
a female.
It is a female, right? Okay. So I'd like to see her as a kind of more interventionist god, like actually, like Cain.
The many slaps of Tauva. You're fighting for your life, and then just this spinning top of a Tau with a million arms, just slapping everyone. That'd be amazing.
That's pretty interventionist. But yeah, like to have like Cain manifests as an avatar. To have her just fully manifest on a battlefield and just be an absolute badass.
There's a person attached to all those arms.
Yeah. I think we're still centuries away from that, because I think we have to see the Tau Empire expand a bit more, and more souls then come into the Tau Empire and spread the greater good.
Wow.
So I'll just close out this kind of idea of the greater good with an example of how it's practiced within their military. Principally within the kind of squads of fire warriors, or their battle suit squads, where the ritual of Talisera will be enacted. And this is, how would you describe it? Almost a communist-style vow between the members of the squad, where they surrender their individuality and are completely, their reputations, their hopes and desires are all based around the squad as a whole. So the success or failure of the squad is their own success or failure. And because they are held together with this, well, it's described as being bonded, they all carry ceremonial knives to represent this unbreakable vow that they've taken to lay down their lives for each other, and indeed for the betterment of the greater good, and the spread of the greater good throughout the universe. So the foot troops will carry small knives to represent that their squad is bonded, and on larger battle suits they'll actually paint a stylized knife icon on the battle suit to represent the same thing. But it's where the group is put ahead of the individual, like voluntarily.
The knives, are they purely ceremonial, or would they use them if they need to be?
They could be used. Yeah, they could be used if they needed to. But in general, it's a symbol. It's a representation that they are dedicated to the greater good beyond their own individual needs and desires and wants.
Is it Sikhism that they have a dagger as well? In the Sikh religion, they carry a dagger. And I can't remember what that represents. Maybe a similar thing. Maybe not die for the greater good, but representative. It actually ironically means peace and brotherhood. I can't remember exactly. I'm probably misremembering that completely.
No, the Sikh religion does have a couple of symbols that include a knife, a bracelet of silver or gold,
and a trombone.
But a comedy trombone.
Yeah. Is there any other kind of trombone? I don't think there is.
A funeral trombone. Wap, wap, wap.
Pulling us back to the Tau, a bonded team in general is far more effective than an unbonded team.
No shit.
Yeah, they gain a staggering kind of psychological advantage where they don't give in. Do you know what I mean? They will fight to the last Tau. There's no concept of retreat, because a retreating squad, unless they're doing it to draw an enemy in, is viewed as a failure, and thus they are viewed as failures. So it's very much a kind of, well, it's a double-edged knife. So it does cut both ways in terms of their lives and the things that they can do with them.
Wow.
Just want to say, freaking love the Tau. I freaking love them. Absolutely love them. And I think it's because they're a juxtaposition to the fucking mindless conquer, dominate, and suppress all other civilizations that you get from the other races and factions. You know, like Tau. Cool. Am I right in thinking the Tau, from a gaming point of view, are quite unpopular amongst 40Kers?
Yeah, it's not the most played faction. I think because of it's not grimdark, which is the kind of, in quotes phrase for most of the factions.
I'd play them.
Yeah, it's there. It's in. I mean, I'll share you now some of the. I'll put them in the show notes. Some images I collected, but in terms of their capacity on the battlefield, that image is. These are the miniatures that you can field as part of a Tau army. So
reminds me of like Gundam Wing, and Neon Genesis.
Yes, exactly right. Yeah. So you see everything white there is a Tau proper, so the Tau culture. You'll see they have enormous kind of walking death machines and battle suits of various sizes and capacities. You'll see in the kind of top left, you'll see the little kind of drone things. Oh, yeah. These are the kind of AI entities. Each one of them is its own separate entity.
Mm-hmm. Oh, cool.
And there are hundreds of different types of drone within the Tau Empire, and they're all viewed with the same way that we would view a really good dog. Sure. In terms of a pet, Chris, not a meal. They are
nom. They're all viewed like a really delicious dog. Yeah. Much like in the game Destiny, where you get your little AI floaty friend.
Yeah,
exactly right.
So do these AI drones have characters? Are they able to communicate?
They have their own personalities, and they do communicate with the leader that they're bonded to.
That's fucking
in
wicked.
Terms of their interface. The most common type of drones are gun drones or shield drones. So in the game, that gives you an additional level of firepower or an invulnerable save that you can use to deflect incoming shots.
If I was a drone, I'd be the devil's advocate drone and just really mess with them. I mean, do you really want to do that? I mean, the other way of doing this is fuck's sake, Cral.
Have you met our friend, the I told you so drone?
Captain Hindsight drone.
Cral drone, not now. We talked about this back at HQ. The front line is no place for your tomfoolery.
But I just want to raise the fact that...
What, are you on their side? Are you on their side? No, I'm just devil's advocate.
I just vision of the gun line opens up and you kind of hover down going, listen, I don't want to be controversial here. It would actually be better if you hit them.
But they've got a very arcadey Disney almost look about them. You know, I could see their characters like in a Disney feel-good robot film kind of thing. So I can see why people, if you're into grimdark and you're into that side of it, why you might resent them. Just because they represent everything that isn't.
I mean, the level of technology involved in the kind of drones is staggering. They have, drones that can influence almost quantum physics and slow down incoming fire or make your firepower more powerful.
Wow.
They have, on top of the kind of most common gun drone, which is effectively, it looks like an upturned plate with 2 pulse cannons underneath it, or pulse blasters underneath it. And pulse technology is the most common type of firepower in the Tau Empire, and it's akin to plasma technology in the Imperium, but it's safe and it's smaller and it fires bolts of plasma at the enemies. So they don't use like physical munitions in the pulse rifles and pulse stuff.
Yes.
There's
Okay.
They do have magazines, but it's more power packs.
Yes.
Than magazines.
The more representative. You know, like how you give robots faces just to make them a bit more... Yeah, like that.
Yeah.
They do it for you, Ben. That's all.
Yeah. And are you ready, Ben? This is the faction you've been waiting for.
Yeah.
The magazine sizes are proportional.
Fuck. Yes. Tau, sign me up, motherfuckers. I'm in. This is great. This is just great. And what's the capacity of like a magazine?
It'd be 30 shots.
Like an iPhone battery?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So they have to carry kind of multiple magazines on them. Like, okay,
so think of it like our current reality. It's the armed forces with they would carry clips of or magazines around with them.
Fantastic.
They do have 2 other kind of common types of technology in their weaponry. One is ion, so an energy dampening weapon used to disrupt. It has like haywire effects on the vehicles and so forth that it attacks. That's not to say it doesn't also have physical damage, but that was actually that wasn't developed by the Tau. That was brought into the Tau Empire by an ally race called the Demiurge or Demiurge, and they are a type of squat.
I'm thinking what you're thinking, Ben. I had a Demiurge this morning.
Yeah. I kind of want to, but not really. You know, like I really want to, but not as much as I would.
I'd like to. Yeah.
I want to, but only 25%. Yeah.
I would if I could.
But they're actually a faction or a section of the leagues of Votan, which are the space dwarves. So there are space dwarves in the Tau Empire.
It's getting better and better.
Yeah,
Mum.
But that ion energy allows the Tau to really punch above their weight against armored vehicles.
Big ion energy.
Mass ranks of enemy troops. It's a real devastating weapon. It's a real kick in the nuts if you're hit by one, because literally that's what it feels like.
Oof. I've seen nothing but and heard nothing but kind of bad press for the Tau. The haters of the Tau
might be game based, because they're quite an all-unwieldy force, because they can do a lot of stuff. And if you specialize, you're like a glass cannon. Then you can hit really hard, but you can't take a punch. The counterattack will kill you most likely.
Right. Okay. Do you think that people are hating on them because they can't play them, or because they're really difficult to play against? Or is it more lore based that they hate?
I think it's a lot of it is lore based, but another chunk of it will be how they play on the table.
Right. Okay.
I'd love to hear from our listeners. Just like, what's your opinion on Tau? Why? If you like them, why? And if you don't like them, why? What are your reasons?
Yeah.
Gaming, lore, or you just hate people with no noses?
I got a funny feeling that our, now that we've kind of vocalized our like of the Tau Cral, that our figures are going to take a nosedive. I think people are going to hate us.
Nosedive.
Nice.
Yeah.
I wish that was purposeful, but I'm gonna pretend it was. Yep.
The final aspect of their technology or their weaponry I want to talk about is rail technology. So they are able to take, it's an incredibly powerful kinetic weapon. So it fires a physical projectile, but it can punch through pretty much anything. So it's their version of kind of las technology, the kind of heavy armored anti-armor punch of the Imperium. But there's 2 kind of variants of the rail ammunition that's fire. One is kind of anti-armor, so it can literally punch through a building or punch through a tank and cause devastating injury. The other version is a kind of flechette version. So it's like a rail shotgun. So it fires a large projectile which breaks up into needles and just absolutely decimates enemy troops, lightly armored enemy troops.
Wow.
So pulse technology, ion technology, and rail technology, those are the kind of big three within the Tau Empire. They do have other weapons analogous to, like melta guns, las cannons, plasma cannons, as we discussed. But the most common sidearm used within the Tau Empire is a pulse rifle or a pulse carbine, which is a smaller version of a pulse rifle and has a plasma grenade launcher underneath it. And that's the smaller version of that is the one that hangs off the gun drones. They do have rotary burst cannons, which I think is also, it's a minigun, a plasma minigun. I think it's plasma. It may be actual ammunition. I think it might actually be just ammunition. Yes. So it's a minigun. Yeah.
Wow.
Mr. Chris.
Do they mince around with melee weapons like the Imperium do?
Excellent
You always
point.
see them like welding like a fucking sword up against someone who's got like some sort of, mad projectile weapon. Like,
a nuke.
Yeah, but the sword has a chainsaw on it too.
Yeah.
Still bang. Yeah.
Yeah. Excellent question. The short answer is no. The Tau culture,
because they're not idiots.
So Tau warriors don't have a capacity for effective close combat fighting.
Okay.
That's not to say they can't. Yeah, they're a bit screwed, which is why they use one of their other kind of auxiliary races as close combat troops, and those are the Kroot. I mean, quite helpful to touch on them because the Tau, when the Tau Empire was first released in 3rd edition, the Kroot were part of that, and there were miniatures for the Kroot. The Kroot are a bird-like and bipedal predator-style faction or individuals, I suppose. And I will show you an image of them just now. And again,
they're the ones in the image you sent.
Oh yes, they're in the front. I beg your pardon. Yeah. So it's the green and brown chaps in the front there. Those are the Kroot. So you've got a visual there of what the Kroot look like, the individual ones. The interesting thing about their culture is they are biohackers innately. So they change their own genetic pattern, their genome, by the consumption of individuals or animals that have beneficial traits that they want to fold into their own culture. So the tribes of the Kroot are led by what's referred to as shapers. And shapers are not only their war leaders, but also the ones that decide, right, we're going to eat those guys over there because they've got a toughness against heat. And then within a generation, all of the Kroot will have an innate toughness against, or innate resistance against heat. Mr. Ben.
So how kind of en masse does that have to be? Like, let's say they decide that they want to produce honey like bees. Do they all have to eat bees, or is it just these little bunch of shapers, they eat bees, and then they have the babies?
The shapers would identify the benefit, but also the process, how much they would have to consume.
Okay.
And so then you would have, I'm covered in bees, but in the inside. Yeah.
In this diorama, is the shaper one on the far right who looks like he's directing the battle? Is that a shaper?
Yes, that's a shaper. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And next to him there is an ethereal.
He's pointing, going, bee! Yeah.
All of those brown and green guys, they're all Kroot. The large ones, the one with the gun on its back is a Kroot ox.
Crouton.
Kroot off.
Delicious.
Crunchy.
Frenchy. The kind of angry gorilla-looking ones, they're the rampagers, the Kroot rampagers. and they are ridden by Kroot warriors, figuratively and literally. But you also have Kroot hounds and Kroot hawks. And the interesting thing about them is all of them at some stage through their evolution started out as a Kroot, because the capacity to ingest material and thus gain benefits from the race you're consuming can lead some to evolutionary dead ends. So the Kroot hounds and the Kroot oxes and the rampagers all serve as kind of, cautionary tales of eating the wrong thing too many times, because those animals, and they are now animals, can't ingest and mutate any further than they are already. They're a stable genome. And so almost all of the fauna on Peck, the Kroot homeworld, started out as Kroot, or started out as the meal of a Kroot.
That's mental.
Yeah, so the entire planet.
So you have to be careful what you eat.
Yeah.
Or not.
Yeah. You're going to turn into a bow bun, Chris, and then that's it. You're just...
Mate. The wittiest bow bun in...
certainly one that would keep coming back on you. Jesus, Captain Interrupty.
That's Commodore Interruptible, actually.
I beg your pardon. Commodore. Yeah.
But I mean, with regards to the kind of the process of evolution, then I'm guessing that those animals, they also stay, their process of evolving their genes is obviously one aspect, but surely does the natural process of evolution still occur? Like, if their environment changed, for instance, would they over generations adapt to that, or would they just stay?
Yes. But it's the thing with evolution that certainly most people in our own world can't grasp fully, is the sheer amount of time that takes. That takes millions of years, whereas the Kroot can push through a new genome, in a matter of months.
Wow.
There used to be an army list for Kroot warbands, where you could select mutations, beneficial mutations for your Kroot troops, including wings. So they can grow wings if they eat enough things with wings. Wing things. Isn't that fun? So yes, in terms of the melee capacity, those are the real close quarters heavy hitters of the Tau Empire. They have other foot troops as well from other races, including both the Vespid, which are insect-like anti-heavy troop winged soldiers, and also more increasingly now, they have hundreds of thousands of human foot troops, human soldiers who fight for the greater good. And they're called the Guvesa or Guevesa. The first E may or may not be silent. And they're that's simply human friends. That's what that means. And so they are full members of the Tau Empire.
How do they present? Are they wearing Tau armor?
So they are wearing elements of Tau armor. Some of them prefer to retain their own weapons from when they were in the Astra Militarum. And some of them, leaders, the thing with auxiliary troops, which is really what we're talking about, not Tau, but the Kroot, the Vespid, humans and other troop types, it's the leaders that have access to, the squad leaders have access to the kind of a limited range of Tau weaponry and armor. But there are more and more cases where, the equivalent of a lasgun is available, but it just looks like a Tau weapon, but it operates like a lasgun. Do you see what I mean? They're trying to both include and respect the technology and culture of the races that are joining the Tau Empire.
Can and do the Tau proper crossbreed with the other? No, there's straight up doesn't work.
It's the same thing. There's no interspecies crossbreeding.
Right, okay.
Who's mods. There was one specific instance, and it was Eldar Human, and it was in the breakdown of the Ultramarines Space Marine chapter where the chief librarian was half Eldar.
Wow.
But that got retconned immediately in the second edition.
Right, okay. Oh, interesting.
We talked there about the caste system, the Ethereals, some of their technology and their auxiliaries. And we talked about the Kroot there. In terms of the technology available to the Kroot, they use what's lovingly referred to as Kroot rifles, which are just, long, regular rifles. Yeah. But the bang sticks have blades at either end, so they use them as kind of
the bang jabby sticks.
Bang jabbers, yeah.
The bang jabbers. That must make looking down the scope of the gun a bit uncomfortable.
No, because they're underneath.
They hold them above their heads like this. The bang jabbers sound like a cool punk Japanese band.
Moving on. It's also interesting to note that the Kroot somehow have their own space vessels. Somewhere along the lines, they got the genetic knowledge needed to build enormous spaceships. And it's kind of a Kroot worldcraft, a Kroot globe. And it looks like a giant metal ball, like a Death Star, that accompanies some Tau fleets and then, discharges the Tau or the Kroot warriors onto the planets that are needed. And I think there used to be a model for it in Battlefleet Gothic, which is the space battle game that Games Workshop had for a while.
Can the Tau or any of the Tau Empire races be corrupted by chaos?
I think so. I'm not sure of any specific instance. It could be, certainly for the Tau, they appear to be under the protection somewhat of their own goddess that they deny. So it's not unconditional love. Let's just say that. But humans are always susceptible to the forces of chaos. There are some Xenos races that have fallen to chaos, but none I'm aware of were members of the Tau Empire. I'll have to go and have a look at the race that was destroyed, the member race that was destroyed by the Tau, because my memory's failing in terms of why they were destroyed. It would make sense if they were dealing with chaos that the Tau would go, whoa, bang jabber.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Bang jabber.
But in terms of the Tau race, because they don't have any psychers, there's no avaricious need for power on an individual basis because of the philosophy of the greater good.
That's cool.
And the Ethereals are largely immune to, swaying because they're, you get a group of Ethereals together in a meeting room. That's a funky room to walk into with all those pheromones flying around.
Yeah.
It's a very umami. That's how you would describe.
It's what? It tastes like mushroom in here.
It's a bit proteiny. Yeah. So that's a very brief overview of the Tau Empire. We didn't mention battle suits in any meaningful way, so we'll include that next episode.
All you need to know is they have them.
They have them.
They sound
throw some images. Yeah, we'll throw some images up on the in the show notes. But I think we'll look at battle suits. We'll look at their empire proper and some of the more kind of recent events next episode. Yeah. So thoughts on Tau?
Yes.
Freaking awesome. Yeah, really like them. My favorite so far. Like real surprise.
God, really? Your favorite so far? Above
Orcs? Above the Orcs so far.
Necrons.
Because, Eldari.
You didn't
all
like
of those
Eldari.
guys. Space Marines. I mean, my resentment of the Imperium, I think I made clear from the beginning anyway, didn't I?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Is your love of the Tau, your newfound love of the Tau, because it offers an escape for humans trapped in the Imperium?
Yeah, exactly. They make more sense than the stupid Imperium people. Yeah, who are just stuck in their ways. Yeah, I like them.
And it's
I
opinions
them.
like that that's going to kill this show.
I mean, there have been humans in the Tau Empire for nearly 300 years, and for many of them, they've just had lives of peace.
Wow. There you go.
They've been allowed to worship the Emperor as a god, as long as it doesn't disrupt the greater good of others around them. So there's farmers and politicians and
let bygones be bygones. Say la vie, manana, all that stuff.
Does that mean?
I think for me, they're like a pressure release. I find the the galaxy, the universe of 40K frustrating as fuck.
Yeah.
I'm like, because it's just on so many levels
and just fucked up shit.
It's that, but it's like relentless, oppression and like, I mean, it sets a great scene, but like, and then you get the Tau, and it's like, finally, a fucking race I can relate to. Just chill, everybody. Chill with guns.
Chill with guns. Because I think, the tagline of 40K is that, in the 41st millennium, there is only war or whatever, or in the grim darkness of blah, 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 there's only war. Whereas the Tau are kind of, they run counter to that, don't they?
There is also war. Yeah.
Yeah. War, in the grim dark future of the 41st millennium, war is a choice for some.
Yeah.
Like it's, you can take it or leave it.
Yeah, well, I mean, largely for the Tau, unless they're launching one of their expansions, war is always, always, always the last resort. They will have tried everything else except war. And then suddenly, I can't believe it's not war.
Darren, what's your feelings on the Tau?
I really like the concept. I think the initial kind of couple of generations of their appearance on the tabletop did them no favors. They were sort of an army that it appears, it's with hindsight, that GW didn't really know what to do with them. Do you know? It was that there is a kind of cynical kind of rumor that goes around that they were just trying to break into the Japanese market with this use of mecha suits and collectivism, that kind of reflection of Japanese culture. But it didn't go down well at all. They weren't very successful in Japan.
But they carried on.
But they carried on because there was enough people buying the stuff that it, as our father says, it washed its face. It covered all its costs.
It washed its face.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. That's
what kind of a saying is that? What kind of a mantra is that?
Well, as in, it was self-sufficient.
It's like you're impressed with a dog. Washed its own face.
It was a branch of their business that, was not only paying for itself, but was profiting. So why would you stop it?
Yeah. Sure. Okay.
So,
wash your fucking face, Cral.
No.
I mean, I like the Tau culture. I think the miniatures, with the exception of the kind of basic, in quotes, battle suits, are cracking. So there are also some of the more expensive kits for points value in an army that you would have, and they're a real finesse army as well. You really need to know what you're doing to get the most out of them. There's lots of different troop types with lots of different abilities that can kind of offset each other and or indeed clash with each other and cause problems. So yeah, it's one of the armies that you need to be playing the game a while to get the benefit.
The thing I've always struggled with when it comes to armies, and the pictures that the picture that you sent, where you've got the Tau proper, the ranged troops at the back, and then the melee troops at the front, is that with the just the foot troops and maybe the smaller mechs, obviously their guns are pinpoint enough that you can be like, right, I'm going to hit those guys there. But any of the larger mechs that have area effect firepower, you're kind of fucked then if you send all your melee troops in, because you're just going to wipe them out as well. So I've never understood how you kind of balance the two during a game.
It's almost like you have your gun line, which are the Tau faction or the Tau race and their battle suits, and then you have the Kroot kind of as full stops along the battle line, that if there's a charge and if they're attacked, they can defend the artillery pieces or the battle suits. But we'll talk about their kind of battle tactics a little bit next time, but they're not a defensive army.
Right.
Like either on the tabletop or in the lore. They hit hard and they prefer to only hit once. And there's a type of combat they use that encapsulate that, the philosophy of it.
Slap and run.
Slap and run, yeah.
It's an effective technique. Only fight I ever had in my entire life, I slapped the guy at the start and it gave me a distinct advantage. It also completely destroyed my reputation as a man. It was like the music stopped in the background. It was like, is this food tripping? And then, a Tau slap.
Anyway, so I like the Tau, and having a look through some of the minis for kind of research and this episode, I feel like, maybe I'll get a Tau. But then I think that every time we do one of these episodes, so
add to my pile of shame. Nice. Well,
so lads, how do you feel? Not including this episode, only 3 episodes to go in the introduction.
Wow.
And this is 40K episode 30, is it?
Yeah.
So
okay, fine.
So you said that this was one of the penultimate, is that right?
No, yes. So it's the penultimate faction. We'll cover one more faction and then we'll be done.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So we've got a half faction Jackson episode left, and then the final faction, and then shit the bed.
And then we can really get started.
Yeah, man.
And it's only taken how long? 1,000,000 years? Amazing.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
So if anyone's still listening, you guys rock. Well done.
Yeah. And then we start the deep dives.
Oh, God.
Right, well, on that note, I am going to wrap up. All right, that's all from us. Thank you so much for listening. Details and imagery for the topics we've discussed in this podcast can be found on our website at layingdownthelore.com. We also have all our previous episodes on there, release schedules, and merchandise. And again, if you are keen to support the show, just click on the Quartermaster link in the description and give us all of your Universal Tau credits. We'll be back again displaying how much Chris and I are now apparently Tau fans. And until then, cheerio.
How now, brown towels?
Tau for now.